And it started like this, an engine and a rack full of bundles and a bunch of middle-aged men who wanted to relive their youth. They'd grown up with thrashing and steam engines before the gas engine became the major power. And there's something about steam, quietness of it, the strong power right off the bat, that you have more power from starting at zero right that moment than you have later. And they're unique engines. And it took a few people like Norman Nelson, Carl Johnson, Helmer Nelson, who instead of selling them out for junk in World War II, put them in storage and kept them. And it didn't take much to say, yeah, wouldn't it be fun to steam up again? Then you had people like Norman Nelson who started building scale models. And he had at least half a dozen scale models by 1954. And he would let us kids who were 10, 12 years old riding their bike up to Case Implement, and he'd roll out one of those miniature engines for us and let us play with it. He'd sit back in a chair and smile. Absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. Once in a while he'd walk over and make sure everything was okay. And then he'd go back and sit and enjoy watching us play with something he had worked very hard to make. And at one time I wondered, why did he do that? And then I finally figured out that that is why he did it. He wanted to see the kids have the same kind of experience he did when he was growing up. And it really hit a bell because, I mean, the first reunion, 3,000 people showed up. The only advertisement has been some posters that were put in local newspapers. The second year, it jumped to 10,000. By the fourth year, it was at 20,000. Now, if you had a private business, wouldn't you love to have that kind of growth? It was amazing. But also amazing that by 55, 56, there was 15 to 20 miniature engines. And there was lots of people who were building model engines that put the roll lights on, and we have a miniature land, and they brought them in. And by about the fourth or fifth week, we were running 15 to 20 big full-size steam engines. It was just like an explosion that happened in a 5-year time period. And then since then, we've diversified so much with the sandbox, with the Log Cabin Museum, with the big stationary engines, with the horse farm, the sawmills, continued the emphasis on thrashing. And then also the women's activities in terms of crafts and that type of thing that was popular back in late 1800s, early 1900s, and is being redone, relived also. I always said we do not preserve the past here. We relive the past. And that's much more important because all you have to do is see the faces of the kids out here. They love it. And they can see everything that's going on. They can start to understand the mechanical process by which energy is produced or by which a bundle turns into wheat or oats. There's just an awful lot here for the kids. And I know I've got 5 grandkids that are either here or going to be here. And this is one of their favorite places. Well, this engine was bought by 2 of my uncles in 1926. Been owned by the Nelson family ever since. Scott and I are major owners of it now. And this engine was paired with a Case 4062 thrashing machine. To give it some perspective, you could have 4 strong bundle pitchers pitching into that thrashing machine at the same time, and it would thrash the grain out. And so on a day, you could cover actually a lot of acres of grain in coming in and thrashing. But it required a crew of 20 or 30 people. You know, most of them pitching bundles. But you had a waterman, you had a fireman on the engine, you had the chief engineer, On the thrashing machine, you had a supervisor in charge on the thrashing machine. You had a grain hauler, maybe two, and you had probably 15 to 20 bundle pitchers. Some of which were on the field, some of which stayed by the machine and added two people per each wagon instead of just one. Now, what's amazing after 101 years, listen to that. Steam engines have, I don't know, I want to say a comforting sound. They're like a heart beating. And you kind of marvel at the mechanics, you know, of the people who invented the way an engine ran. And there were so many different approaches to it. This was a tiger that was going to rule the world in terms of farm equipment and grain handling equipment and thrashing equipment. And in 1890, they were the biggest. They employed over 800 people. They sold more thrashing machines and steam engines than any other company.
I'm Matt Ponslett from Zumbrota, Minnesota. I've been coming to Rolog for about 20 years now, and we finally decided to bring up our buggy. This is a 1916 Gaar Scott 2575 double cylinder. This is number 16541. We got it at an auction in Montgomery, Minnesota. It originally came from up in Canada. This is the highest serial number known to exist. Fine running machine, fun to run, and we got a pretty good crew that helps us out, so it's great.
All right, this is a 40-horse Gaar Scott. This is one of two existing, the only one in a private collection, the only one in the U.S., and the only one that's currently running. This engine went through a full restoration. It's owned by Jared Rubel of Hanlintown, Iowa. Jared bought this engine back in, he bought her in 2008. It took about 2 years to do the restoration. The engine was finished in 2010. We replaced better than 75% of the gearing with new gearing. The engine proper was completely gone through. A new boiler was contracted and built, and we swapped all the castings from the original boiler to the new boiler.
In addition to the full-size steam engines exhibited, the log also shows a number of scale engines. While these engines have been built in recent decades compared to their full-size counterparts, they are fully operational and accurate representations of their full-size versions.
I'm Sam Ertl.
I'm Adam Wren.
We're from Batesville, Indiana, casket capital of the world. We brought this 1870 Gaar here from the Gaar Mansion, and it still belongs to the Gaar family. Brought it up for the Gaar Expo this year. Great time, and hopefully here real soon we'll be able to bring our Gaar Scotts up as well and have another great year. Wonderful year. So the history of the engine is, again, it was built in 1870, and it was actually sold new in Lexington, Kentucky. Brought up to Ohio in the 70s, then sold back to the Gaar family in the early 90s. So, yeah, pretty good story. Neat piece of machinery. Everybody was great here.
Definitely worth 950 miles to get here.
Yep. Everybody is wonderful here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.